I made a video that came out, I believe, on Monday that was talking about essentially the arena, specifically live arena, champions you want to use, classic arena, tag team arena, basically all of the arenas, and just talking about which champions you want to use inside the game, inside your teams, and what roles they would fulfill. And then I went through a bunch of different examples of those champions with some epics and everything like that mixed in, trying to encompass basically as much as I possibly could in a roughly 20-minute video. Well, I received a comment from somebody who was a little upset that I didn't showcase some of the builds for those said champions, so I thought to myself that is actually a very good idea for a follow-up concept to the video. So we're going to be doing essentially a part 2 where we talk about how to build a good arena defense specifically. And we're going to be talking about the builds that you need on your champions. Now, in a lot of cases, the builds that you're going to use on defense are the same as the builds that you'll use in offense, especially for something like Live Arena. As I went over in the last video, what are my credentials? Well, I am in high gold 3 as a very low spend player inside the Live Arena. I am in gold 2. I got demoted last week because it was a busy week. I was previously in gold 3 of tag team. And then, of course, higher than normal in gold 5. When it comes to Siege, I'm in a tier 6 clan. We are ranked top 200 inside the world. When it comes to all-time by defensive victories, I am in the top 8 in the clan. And when it comes to attack victories, I am inside the top 11 inside that clan as well. So I would like to think that I have a little bit of knowledge about the arena and PvP and how those things go. As always, though, as I always say, just vet your instructors. Make sure that you're not taking advice from somebody who doesn't even know what they're talking about. So what are we going to be doing today? I'm going to be rebuilding a couple of my champions just to show you the stats that we're looking for, essentially. And first up on the chopping block, rather, is going to be Marichka. So this is a good time to do a rebuild, essentially, because my Marichka is using a lot of 5-star gear, and she's certainly not optimized very well for the arena. I do have a very decent build on her, so I have 570 resistance, 90,000 HP, 257 on the speed, and then 4,000 on the defense. But today we're going to be trying to get a little bit more HP, more speed, and then changing up her sets a little bit as well. So hopefully you guys find this helpful. If you do, definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, all those sorts of good things. So we're going to be hopping into the Hell Hades Artifact Optimizer essentially here, and I'm going to show you how this is done. So if you don't have the optimizer, that kind of sucks. I won't lie, that kind of sucks. It is available on multiple different platforms now. I'm willing to do essentially, builds for your team and whatnot if you need it. Essentially just pop into my Discord or shoot me a DM on Discord just saying you'd like to take over, and you can get it figured out for a small fee or some YouTube content, whatever it might be. And that is something I'm happy to assist with because I do have the optimizer. Of course, I've done it for people in the past. I have some takeover videos on my channel, all those sorts of good things. There's a couple different things that you can do here for building your Marichka. First of all, you can choose survival mode if you just want the highest effective HP score, and then you can choose balanced mode if you want to have a little bit more freedom on what you're picking. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick balanced, or rather survival, because I do want my champion to survive as much as possible. And what I want to try actually is to get her into a different set here. So we are going to go with our 4-piece stone skin at a minimum, but what I want to try on top of that is to get her into a 4-piece relentless as well, which, am I crazy or can I just not see it? What is happening here? Does it have to be a primary set? Let's go remove set, add set right here, boom. Here's the R's down here. Relentless, there we go. Alright, and then we'll add another set. We'll do stone skin on top. I'm not sure why the optimizer made us pick relentless first, but it is what it is. Slots, we are going to include everything. And then for stats, what we really want here is I would like probably at least 275 speed if I can. I want my Marichka to be quite a bit faster than she is currently because I do get outsped. And one of the questions that people are going to have most often about building champions, especially for different areas in the game, so for example, arena, right, is what stats do I need? And the best answer that I can come up with on this is the best stats that you have. And the reason for that is I can sit here and tell you, hey, you need 100,000 HP, 3,200 defense, and 300 speed to push into gold 4, live arena, right? And that's all well and good for a player like myself who has a maxed out Great Hall and can reach those thresholds. But realistically, I don't have many mythical champions. There's going to be players out there with obscenely overpowered mythical champions like Galathier who can get into Gold 4 Live Arena with significantly less stats just because, you know, their champion is more powerful. I might have a Taurus and Marichka, but there's going to be a team that beats me with like a Sun Wukong and a UDK because their gear is just simply better than mine, right? Even though you could debate that those are a weaker combination of champions. It's going to depend on your account and what you have at your disposal. Gear as well as champions are equally important inside the game, especially inside PvP. You're going to be able to beat better champions if you have stronger gear, and you're going to get beaten by essentially stronger gear, but even worse champions, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like a never-ending battle between the two for what you can potentially get there. We're going to go ahead. We're also going to go to configure. I'm going to include artifacts on locked champions. Just excluding priority 5 because those are essentially like my clan boss teams and those sorts of things, so I don't want to be pulling gear off of them, of course. And we're just going to go ahead and see what kind of a build that we can get popped out here, and we don't get any build, apparently. So that is pretty fantastic. This will certainly happen on your accounts as well. It's not always going to be possible that you can get the stats that you want, essentially, and keep in mind I was only going for 275 speed there. That's not crazy fast. My particular account is essentially forever cursed when it comes to getting speed substats, it seems. I've shared this story before where my Arbiter is essentially using a chest piece for her speed that is a flat stat main chest piece, which is kind of whatever. A lot of people use that, but this is the same chest piece that I have had on her since I started playing the game almost 5 years ago at this point. So I got it within the first like 6 months of playing the game, and I have not got an upgrade for it since. It is ridiculous. So we can't do that apparently. Let's do 255 on the speed. I'm not entirely sure why we're having such a struggle finding speeds and whatnot here, but I do want my Marichka to be in a Relentless set, and I did actually get this idea from Cruisin', one of his videos actually, so I must give credit where credit is due. That is terrible. So I think what we'll do here is we'll actually go ahead and we will do a balanced mode instead with stats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a priority 1, the highest priority on HP, and then I'm going to put maybe like a priority 3 here and a priority 2 here. That's kind of how I want it to go. When it comes to, and another important thing to consider when building for the arena, when it comes to stats, you want to place a higher priority on HP as opposed to defense, the only exception being obviously like a defensive-based nuker, right? And the reason for that is we have so many champions, gear sets, and masteries that are focused solely around ignoring defense that in today's meta, you're going to be far better off if you have a lot more HP. So for example, I use this example all the time. Sun Wukong with his A2 in a lethal set with a Helm Smasher proc is just doing true damage, right? It's going to be straight up HP nukage. There's no defense mitigation on that, especially if you factor in, for example, a defense down or a weaken or something like that. The HP is going to be so important to surviving that. Now granted, if it's a well-built Sun Wukong, you're not surviving it anyways. You can see I don't have very good gear for my champions. We're using an accuracy chest plate, people. An accuracy chest plate. This is ridiculous. So let's go to stats. What is she at currently for speed? She's at 257. We're going to go to glyphs, and we're going to say that I can use probably at least a 4-star on the glyphs. For HP percentage, I can use at least a 4-star for defense percentage, and then for resistance, I can use at least 4-star glyphs for all of those as well. And then we're going to go to stats. I still want to keep her at around the 255 minimum speed because I do need her fast enough to be doing cleansing and whatnot. And 255 for a Marichka is still pretty slow. I'm really hoping to get some extra use out of her with the Relentless set though, because Relentless is going to give me the chance to take extra turns, which would be pretty cool. I do have her inside a Life Harvest Mastery currently, or not Mastery, but rather the Blessing. So she's going to destroy enemy max HP by a certain amount whenever they're revived, and it's actually going to fill 10% of her turn meter as well, which is quite nice, and then I do get the plus 600 on the defense from that as well, which is pretty cool. And with my champion, even as high up as I'm pushed, you can see like I have a 5-star, very suboptimal Stone Skin piece. I have a 5-star, very suboptimal bolster piece in here, right? Like a 6-star resilience, which isn't bad, but like there's so many areas for upgrades, it's kind of crazy. So let's view as a list. We're getting around 79,000 HP is kind of the highest we can go, with a 4,600 on the defense. So she's getting more defense than current. She does keep a decent amount of resistance, so we're still sitting at about 500 resistance. Her effective HP currently is 437,000. So I kind of want to stay as close to that as possible. We'll show the differences. All of these are a downgrade. It's just whether or not we're getting, you know, a big defensive upgrade with it as well. So I wish that we had stronger HP that we could use on this. So I'm actually going to move this down to like a lower priority because I'm not incredibly interested in defense, essentially. Again, because I just need my Marichka to be surviving, and I do see a couple of them that are very close in terms of the effective HP there, which is quite nice. And this is going to be not necessarily an optimizer guide, obviously, but this is going to be more so a showcase of how you want to build champions, the things you want to consider when you're building them, you know, potential sets and those sorts of things. So with a few other things to go over kind of while we wait for this to happen too. I've mentioned this before, but for support champions, you generally rather that they are affinitied as opposed to being void. And so what I mean by that is, for example, with a Marichka, she is a very strong champion, but at the same time, she can also be critical hit by anyone in the game because she is a void champion, obviously. Whereas if you take a Pythion, who is a force champion, he's obviously a bit weaker because there are certain affinities that can go against him and have a positive matchup. But on the other side of that coin, he's also going to be a strong matchup against, for example, a magic-based damage dealer. So think of like a Trunda or something like that, right? I actually quite like this build. So we're only losing 1,500 on the HP, which is not bad. We're gaining 103 defense. We're getting -1 speed, but we can easily glyph that up, I imagine. A little bit of crit rate and crit damage gain, not worried about that. Accuracy, I'm also not worried about. She's not in polymorph. We do lose quite a bit of resistance at -152, though, which is a bit of a shame. So I think we're going to go ahead and equip this, and boom. Equip in-game. This is the particular gear set that it wants me to use, so we can go ahead and we can start leveling up some of these pieces as well. I have roughly 3.6 million silver to work with. Now it's down to 2.1. That quick. I didn't even see where that rolled, honestly. Looks like it went into crit damage there. Let's go ahead and ascend and see if we get a good ascension on here. Of course, we do not. We are also going to go ahead and level up this chest plate. So this is a level 6, which has HP on it. Let's go ahead and see if we get a good ascension. We don't. I'm going to try and rework this a couple of times just to try and get some extra HP on there. As you can see, I don't have a whole lot of dust to work with, though. And I'm also just debating if I should move myself, but it should be fine because I'm showing everything in full screen anyways. Resistance wouldn't be a bad way to go. Again, defense isn't a bad way to go. I think for the time being, I might just leave that one on defense. We'll see what kind of resources we're working with here. This has just eaten all of my silver just simply trying to get this gear equipped, people. This absolutely sucks. We're in such like a silver shortage inside the game, like constantly, that it's ridiculous. Current stats, 81k, so I definitely need to get this stuff maxed out. And as you can see, I'm still using 5-star speed boots here, people. Like, this is not optimal. I'm going to see if I have any sort of like a speed equipped, and then we'll go to Stone Skin specifically and see if we have something better there, because I am okay taking a little bit of a stat hit in some areas just to have her faster, essentially. So let's see. Stone Skin, we have 6-star here. Less HP on that, though. It does have a speed ascension already, though, which is quite nice. We don't really have any others that already have a speed ascension, it doesn't look like, which is why it chose the 5 stars for us. So it's really just these ones, which are like damage dealer boots. So definitely not optimal. These are going to be very good for like a He-Man or something like that, though. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do a bit of like a gear cleanse here on my side and try to sell some gear real quick. and then I will come back with you once I have some of that cleared up and a little bit more silver to play with as well, just so I can get some additional optimization done on this champion and kind of show you a little bit more in depth what we're doing. So thanks to the RSL helper, I was able to go through and do some gear cleansing as well as some forging. So I do have a little bit more silver to play with here now. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to upgrade these gauntlets to level 16. I'm going to see if I can get an ascension on them that would be beneficial to us. We'll try and rework them a little bit here. Obviously, these are very good damage dealer gauntlets, apart from the fact that they have an HP main stat. So it is a little bit disappointing that we couldn't get, you know, more resistance or something like that as a substat on it. But if anything, one of the important takeaways from this video and this guide should be to work with what you have on your account, right? So more stats are always nice, but if you can't get those stats, sometimes you just have to deal with it, right? So for example, with this particular piece, it is actually chalking up to be quite a nice piece here, so we get some extra resistance on there. We get a defense ascension on that. So we're at 89,000 on the HP, 4,100 on the defense there. And then for the speed, we do need to glyph it out a little bit more here, because part of the build essentially was predicated on us having 4-star glyphs on everything. So as you can see, we're definitely a little bit slower than we'd like to be. If I can get HP ascensions on the top stats, I'm going to go ahead and max those out as well. We're going to go ahead and go for some more speed on this one. We do get a good roll of speed there, which is quite nice. Decent roll of flat, or rather defense percentage. And then a decent roll of flat defense there as well. Let's see what we can get on the top here. We get attack. Let's try a couple of re-rolls, hoping for HP, of course. If we don't get it, let's go ahead and try one last one here. Give us the HP. It's going to be attack again, unfortunately. We're going to go ahead and we're going to enchant this piece as well. We have some HP, some speed, and some defense here. I think with this particular piece, I can actually go ahead and max glyph it there first try, apparently, because the stats are just good enough that I know I'm going to be using this piece at some point in the future. And interestingly enough, Marichka is going to be the first ever champion that I have built out inside Relentless gear. So this is an exciting proposition for me as well, to see essentially what she can do inside, you know, the arena and those sorts of things. Again, I'm going to take a look at those speed boots, though, just because I'm really tempted to go ahead and switch over, essentially. So let's go down here to Stone Skin. These particular speed boots, again, we have attack and whatnot on there, which is not something that we need, but we would get more speed. We would lose resistance, though, of course, which would be a bit unfortunate. And then the rest of it's just kind of pretty questionable there, it looks like. So boots like this wouldn't be bad either. We'd actually end up getting more HP out of it too, it looks like. Let's go ahead, let's rework this a little bit and see if we can get either like HP or speed on it, because if we can, that would be pretty awesome, and I'll probably switch to these boots. There it is. There's the HP sub ascension that we wanted. Let's go ahead, let's take these bad boys up to 16, eat a little bit more of our silver there, and then let's go ahead and glyph them out a little bit here as well. And the one thing I want to point out, so it can be very easily, you can be very easily disgruntled in this game, essentially, by looking at, you know, other players' accounts and saying, oh, well, they have, you know, these champions and they're so much stronger than mine and those sorts of things. But one of the big things to consider is look how much stronger my builds are getting by the use of glyphs, right? So glyphs are so incredibly important to champion builds inside this game. It's definitely something that you do need to focus on, and of course the place to get those is inside Faction Wars. So if at all possible, make sure you're farming your Faction Wars daily, right? Because you are going to need these materials to really push your account when it comes to the PvP side of things. We're going to go ahead and try to re-roll a little bit here. We'd love a resistance ascension on this particular banner. I don't want to use all my dust, though. HP would also be acceptable. Accuracy is going to be of no benefit to Marichka, though. So for the time being, since I don't have a whole lot more dust, we're just going to go with the HP ascension and kind of accept that how it is. Let's go ahead, let's rework this amulet a little bit and see if we can get some better rolls on here. Again, we only have 15 extra dust to work with, so the HP ascension is going to be quite nice there. We're going to go ahead and take that. I don't have enough big pots for the accessories, so I need to farm some more Shogun's Grove to make her a little bit stronger. Let's go ahead and get some resistance glyphs in here. We do get a nice roll there on it. and then an HP glyph in here as well to give us a little bit more HP. And of course we roll the lowest possible HP there, which is a bit of a shame. We have some decent glyphs on this particular piece already. So overall she is looking pretty good, I would say. We got 104,000 HP, 263 on the speed. I think she actually came out a little bit faster than she was on my previous build as well, which is quite nice. And then we have 398 on the resistance. Again, a little bit lower than I would like on the resistance, but we are definitely depending on that stone skin to give us some RNG there. This one we're going to go ahead and upgrade, just because there we go, we roll resistance on that, so we're going to go ahead and try to glyph that up as well and see if we can't get some extra stats on there. I'm going to go ahead and use, actually no, we're going to save it. This is already glyphed out pretty well for the speed. Let's go ahead and roll this up as well, because if we get HP percentage on here, it'd be quite nice, which we don't. But the extra HP from the main stat is going to be nice either way. Same kind of thing here. We'd be looking for resistance, but we can't even roll it up to 16 because I am too silver broke currently to do that. So this is how the build is looking for the Marichka, though. This is not, you know, an in-depth guide on Marichka or anything like that by any means. Certainly, if you're needing, you know, ideas for her, this should kind of give you a baseline to start with. But at the end of the day, if you're thinking about how to build another champion, I have so many guides on my channel. Other content creators are out there just absolutely fantastic for giving guides as well. I'm just doing this as kind of a baseline for everybody to get an idea of the things to think about when you're gearing a particular champion. So to kind of summarize, obviously you're thinking about putting, you know, the sets on them that are important, right? So in her case, at least Relentless and Stone Skin is what we're going with. With damage dealers, you'd be looking at like lethal and those sorts of things. And then, you know, stats are so crucial in this game. The fact that you want HP more than defense, some off meta sets that you can bring in there like Frostbite and those sorts of things, and I'll actually show you that on my Ultimate Death Knight here. So Ultimate Death Knight does have a 2-piece of Frostbite. I have covered this at length, especially in my Ultimate Death Knight guide as well, so I'd recommend checking that out if you haven't already. But this is absolutely fantastic. Everybody's hitting UDK because of the way his passive works. If everybody's hitting him, he has a lot of chances to place a freeze on enemies, and of course he quite often does, especially on the enemy nukers or those sorts of things, and it's come in clutch so many times in my games that there's no way that I can't recommend to do this because it's so incredibly strong. We should have some juicy rewards waiting for us from the Artifact Enhancement event, and in fact we do. We got enough to go ahead and get ourselves the Dawncaller Sabbatha fragments for the fusion, which is quite nice. On a quick tangent, I really wish that they would add, like, you know, ascending and stuff like that as being part of this, so that, like, for example, if you upgrade the Ascension on your gear, that counts towards the event, essentially. There's really no reason for it not to, right? So I'll just show you some builds on the rest of my champions here real quick so you can get a good idea of it. So my Sun Wukong is in Perception, Lethal, and One-Piece Feral. These are the stats that he's got on him very fast. To kind of go over the stats again, like I say, it's the best that you can get on your account. It'll work out. So that's an important thing to remember. If you build out your Sun Wukong as powerful as you possibly can, you're not going to reach a place in the arena that you're not supposed to be. You're going to generally sit around where you are, and if you are plateaued at a position, so for example, if you're in Silver 2 and you just can't seem to progress past it, it means that it's probably time to do more farming, because you're going to have to go ahead and essentially just get more good gear, right? So something to consider there as well. I know a lot of people will say, well, what stats do I need to progress? And again, it's just the very best that you can get on your account. And then, especially when it comes to live arena, if you're on a loss streak, you're going to go down in the ranks and start to face easier matchups, which means that you're then going to kind of sit around the position that you're supposed to be. There's obviously a lot of RNG into it as well, right? I've gone on, like, you know, 10 loss streaks in a row, which is just absolutely bonkers, and it doesn't feel good at the time, that's for sure, but you just got to remember that it's kind of balancing out your level as well in relation to the other players. So, you know, maybe there's just somebody who's been spending a little bit more that edged ahead of you there, right? So just something to consider on that front as well. When it comes to other support champions, these are kind of the stats that we're looking for. So again, UDK, we're looking for high HP, high defense, low speed, high resistance if you can. Taurus, if you're interested in how an HP nuker is built, this is him here, 109,000 HP, 105 and 256 on the crit and crit damage respectively. I do need to rebuild him at some point. He definitely has my best HP nuker gear on him, though. That is for certain. Someone like a Freya, right? If you have her as a support champion, this is kind of what we're looking for. I got 7,400 on the defense for her, which is pretty strong. And then, of course, she kind of just scales up over time as well. Defensive-based nuker, Harima herself here, 6,800 on the defense, 100 and then 242 on the crit damage. If I had a higher awakening for her and I got that extra crit damage from it, that would be absolutely fantastic. White Queen Ancora is somebody I need to rebuild at some point as well, but these are how her stats are looking, so you can really see the important stats are going to be HP, speed, resistance, defense, those sorts of things. And those core stats are really going to carry you up higher inside PvP areas of the game. So if you're struggling to progress, try to farm and get those things done. Definitely make sure to do your Doom Tower battles as well. Some of the best sets that you can possibly get are going to come from Doom Tower. So for example, Frostbite obviously comes from the Frostbiter. You're going to have basically just an upgraded immunity set or a block debuffs essentially coming in from the Scarab, which is going to be fantastic for the early part of Arena. And then on other rotations, when you can farm Dark Fae, you absolutely should. I have a couple of videos on my channel talking about how you can beat Dark Fae even with a free-to-play friendly team. She has some of the best gear in the entire game in the way of Lethal, which is a direct upgrade over something like Savage. You should also be clearing Cursed City as much as you possibly can, because you're going to get Merciless and Supersonic, both of which are incredibly powerful gear sets. So those are areas that you can certainly progress as well. And then, especially if you're able to beat up hard a little bit, you'll be slowly progressing your way towards Carnage as well, who you'll get over some time farming the game. I'm not even close currently, depressingly enough, because I just don't really rebuild champions and stuff like that. And then I get to stages that are like this, where I have like no champions that can beat them. I can't actually see how well you can see it, but you can kind of see it there. I have like nothing for this particular stage, and then I look at like, you know, the global rankings, and it's just people using like a singular mythical, which is kind of insane. Plarium certainly seems to favorite the mythicals when it comes to which champions show up inside these filtered stages, which makes sense, right? They want you to spend money on primal shards, and the easiest way to do that is to make it so that if you're not really going to be able to progress inside content. So it is what it is at the end of the day. And, ooh, some extra energy. That'll be useful. I hope this guide was helpful, though. I would love to hear feedback from you guys down below if there's certain things you want to see in the game. I'm probably going to do a video like this at some point talking about how to build out damage dealers as well, so you can kind of get a better idea of it there. And then, you know, maybe some more support-oriented stuff at some point in the future. That being said, though, thank you guys all so much for the support on the channel. I very much appreciate it. It means the world to me. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.